What's wrong?
I don't know. I might have just shared. I don't know.
We're live.
We are live. Hello. Welcome. We've had some technical issues. We might, Bianca, get people join us here at the bottom. If that happens, that's okay. I'm just going to say hello and just say I'm not going to. Hopefully you can hear and you can see, but obviously they won't join this. Normally what would happen, it just goes on LinkedIn, but I don't think that's happening because LinkedIn's being a pain in the rear.
It says it's happening now on my LinkedIn. I just got a notification.
Okay, can you see a video on there?
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Okay, perfect.
Fantastic. Hello, everybody. Sorry, just had some technical issues. As I was explaining, StreamYard, for some reason, is an hour behind our timings. And so whenever I put it up there, I have to be careful of that. And for some reason, it just didn't work. And Bianca's has to leave at 1. So we're getting this done now. But I'm glad you can see it on LinkedIn, which is fantastic. Welcome, everybody. I'm looking forward to this. I'm not stressed anymore.
Calm, deep breaths. You've got this.
Breath.
We can make it a stress management session if you need.
Yeah, just for me because of the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm buzzing for this. I feel like me and you are very much on a very similar wavelength when it comes to this kind of thing, and I think we're going to have a good discussion around looking after ourselves, looking after our kind of health, mindsets, all that kind of stuff. So, welcome, hello everybody. I'll do a quick introduction and I'll get you to say hello and kind of introduce yourself. First, obviously, if you don't know me, my name's Rich. I'm the founder and director of Employees Health. Employees Health is a workplace wellbeing and coaching company. I'm an exec coach and I help people improve their performance and wellbeing and reduce burnout, etc. But we also have a list of services to support companies either create wellbeing strategies, add education into their workplace, and even have a kind of really great 6 to 12 week health and wellbeing program designed for employees. Anyway, that's the boring bit out of the way. Bianca, hello.
Hello, Rich. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Can you just give us a little bit of an introduction? Don't go too deep. I'm going to ask you a bit more about kind of your story in a second, but give us a bit of an introduction.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Bianca Errigo. I am co-founder of a company called HumanOS. We combine some really cool, powerful technology with human coaching to do 2 main things, really, to help optimize the health of the individual and also to help deliver strategies and data insights and work around professional services to organizations to improve business performance effectively. Who am I? I'm just sort of a regular, won't say my age, but lady, like to work out, likes to eat pasta, obsessed with animals, and in my free time I like to go for long walks. And mountains.
Yeah. Just the random kind of stuff you do, right?
Yeah,
everyday stuff. If you follow Bianca, you'll know how crazy she is and how much she actually does do. And that's crazy in a nice, polite term, by the way.
Thank you. It's not the first time I've been called crazy, don't worry.
But yeah, no, it does do some wicked stuff. And as I said, I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation around kind of what you can do, what we can kind of support, a little bit kind of looking at HumanOS as well and how that helps. But yeah, so let's get into it. Your story, because I know you have a bit of a backstory to why you're where you are today. So can you just kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, let's go from the top then. So always been obsessed with human behavior, human health, the human brain. From a really young age, I've always wondered why people behave the way they do. And I guess this led to sort of me studying psychology at university. then the plan, I've never really been someone who's been like hugely passionate about anything. And, I didn't as a child think this is what I'm going to do with my life, and these are my dreams, and these are my goals. I never really knew what I wanted to do, to be honest. So went to university because, knew that human behavior was something I was really interested in. And so it seemed like a natural step, go study psychology. Once I had done my degree, still wasn't like 100% sure what my dream job was, if that exists. So decided that I was going to take a year out and then come back, further my studies, and probably go down the sort of clinical psychology route. I think about 2 weeks after I graduated, I was told that my father had 3 months left to live. And I guess this was sort of the first time in my life that I realized this world doesn't happen in chronological order. And, the things you're taught as a child and this sort of social sort of constructs that are put on us, actually, reality is very different. So that sort of put a pause in the plans for traveling and, that side of things. Equally didn't want to go down the clinical psychology route, then didn't have the sort of energy or the capacity to add to my qualifications. So for the next 3 months, very much day by day. After 3 months, my father was still alive at the time. I very unfairly think that he told me at that point that I had to go get a job. And given everything that's going on, I was like, what? So, at that time in my life, being in my early 20s, being challenged with the terminal illness of a parent, all I knew was that I was good at talking to people and that I wanted to make money and make money really quickly. So I ended up in a IT job. I got a job on the grad scheme for the world's largest IT solutions and services company. I was one of 2 women to be in that grad scheme. I was on the sales floor of about 800 people. I think I was the second youngest person in the company. And so, very quickly was sort of thrown in the deep end, and selling something that I knew nothing about, really. Sort of within my first year, I was in the top performing sales team globally, but I was working seriously long days. I had no sort of self-care. As I got better at the job, the targets got bigger, the pressure got bigger, and the more I was escaping my father's illness, really. So when my father did pass away, I actually found myself in hospital, and the doctors said that I was so strong-minded, I just physically keep going and going. So my body actually started shutting down. I was told that I'd have to be on medication for the rest of my life, have annual endoscopies. Effectively, I'd eroded the majority of my stomach wall. I couldn't sleep lying down because it was too painful. I had pain all over my body. I couldn't digest my food. And so, and also dealing with my father and my best friend passing away. So it was a lot going on there. Took a year out, went traveling, finally did those things that I wanted to do, came back to the UK, started one-to-one coaching. I've got over 10,000 hours of one-to-one coaching, started to sort of integrate mental well-being and physical well-being before it's a done thing like it is now post-pandemic. After about 6 months of doing that, was seeing about 50 clients a week, had a wait list of 6 months, and then this little thing called COVID-19 happened. So like the second time in my life where I realized life doesn't happen as we think it's going to happen, and reality is very different. Still didn't really know what I wanted to do and what this dream job was, so the gyms were shut. Life started looking very different for so many of us, and I just saw this opportunity to start working with corporate organizations, and delivering workshops and classes to try and help improve employee well-being outside of what organizations have conventionally done, which is taking you for nice dinners, taking you for nice drinks, taking you on fancy holidays. Within a year of doing that, I was working with American Express, Snapchat, University of Cambridge, all still my clients now, some other global companies. And then about a year and a half ago, my now business partner approached me and said, I've got a platform for this. Let's, combine forces. Let's combine minds and see what we create. And that's sort of where HumanOS was born recently, really. And then now that's what I do. Just, it's very much all hands to the deck at the moment, trying to provide well-being at global scale and start to really create a change in the way as a culture and as a society we approach well-being and work.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. In a nutshell, where do I start? Obviously, I knew your backstory, so I know that you've gone through a lot, and obviously went through a lot to recognise that change you needed to make. But psychologically, how your that kind of process, obviously losing your dad, and how hard that was. So obviously, well done for working on that and continuously keep going on that journey. Where's my next question on that? Is when you were put into hospital with that stomach issue, did they say what was wrong? Did they say why? Sorry, did they say why? Because it'd be an interesting thing to explore a little bit.
Did they say why? They put it down to stress, and I don't think they are incorrect by any means, and actually this was probably a moment for me where I started becoming stress obsessed, and it was a sort of pin drop moment for me where I realized the very physical impact that stress can have on the body. And so what happened was my cortisol was consistently so high, my inflammation was so high that actually it started to have a very physical impact on my body, and it just basically meant my stomach was producing so much stomach acid that it started eroding my stomach walls. Indigestion is so common, how many people do you know who get it? And actually, a lot of it is because of stress and lifestyle factors. And so that was the reason that I was there. Like I said, I wasn't looking after myself. I think my dinners every night were Weetabix and a bottle of red wine. I was going out, I was stressed, I wasn't sleeping, I was grieving, I was working 18-hour days at points. And so my body just said, enough. Yeah.
That was the interesting part, because I think people forget some of the serious impact of stress and overdoing it and overworking, and so I wanted just to see where that played a point.
I mean, 80%, according to the World Health Organization, 80% of all human illness and disease can be traced back to stress.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The biggest proxy killer globally.
Yeah, and I find people don't understand the link between stress and the physical impact.
Yeah.
Until it's kind of happened to you. And I mean, it took me a little while, and maybe more so probably until I got into kind of this side of why my profession, I guess, the mindset psychological part, and this kind of looking at stress, of the impact it had on me. And I look at kind of stressful periods at university, school, they all had then a physical impact as well, which is something which we kind of probably skip over sometimes or don't understand until we reflect on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, stress is a needed thing in life. Stress keeps us alive. Stress keeps us motivated. You stress it allows us to get out of bed, to want to do well at work, to want to go to the gym. We need stress. And at a very sort of basic evolutionary perspective, it's what used to save our lives. That fight or flight response is actually what kept us alive and allowed us to, survival of the fittest effectively. So we need stress. And actually, in my opinion, those who are best adapted to life now aren't the ones who avoid stress. It's the ones who know how to deal with their stress effectively. And at a cellular level, you need to learn that response. And so you need stress to be able to learn how to deal with it. But it's a double-edged sword, and there's a tipping point, and it's, you have to be in control of it. And as soon as that stress starts to be in control of you, it all goes wrong.
Yeah, amen to that. And then don't worry, I'm going to quiz you on that later on. So we'll look at kind of health and happiness in a bit. I just want to explore HumanOS. You've given us a brief introduction to it. Can you give us a little bit more detail around what it does, kind of how it helps and how it helps organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. So HumanOS, we are a platform. We combine technology with human coaching. Corporate wellbeing, it's a very competitive space. There's a lot of incredible companies out there. There's a lot of cool people trying to do cool things. Absolutely. And, and I really think there's enough room for everyone. When people say it's so competitive, it's so saturated, I'm like, how many unhappy people do you know? How many stressed people do you know? How many people do you know who aren't sleeping enough, who aren't eating well enough, who aren't training correctly? Like, don't tell me there's not enough room for us all. The day that I see everyone happy is the day that, you know, there's not enough room. So HumanOS, we definitely think of ourselves as a corporate wellbeing company, but we're not just another corporate wellbeing app. What we're actually trying to do is really change the way we approach corporate wellbeing as a society. So we use our platform, our data insights, our machine learning, our technology, and our human coaches to simplify and optimize the health of the individual. I think well-being, I think health, it's so overcomplicated. It can be really overwhelming. It's really hard to find what's right for us. There's so much contradictive information out there. So we try and really simplify and optimize that journey for the individual, the employee, to give them the control back when it comes to their health. And then we use our data and our reports and our professional services to build wraparound consultancy work for organizations. So our technology can see patterns in their data, in their employees' behavior. It's completely anonymous, obviously. And then we can then link these data points to how much money the organizations are losing, and then build their strategies to improve business performance based on their own data.
Yeah, wicked. And a few of those bits kind of, I think, really resonates, like given the ability for people to take control of their health and well-being. Again, the fact that health and well-being can be really complicated, and simplifying that's going to be really important. And I presume this is probably a big part of our discussion today is kind of looking at that, I guess. So yeah, no, just wanted obviously just a bit more of an understanding of kind of how HumanOS helps. And thank you for sharing that. So the big question, the big important question: what do you think being happy and healthy is or means?
Okay. I think we have to be careful when answering this, because I don't want people to be under the opinion that being happy and healthy are these like constant things. Yes, of course, that would be incredible, but actually that's not how life works. And it ebbs and it flows and it goes up and it goes down. So, you know, it's about proactively working towards happiness, proactively working towards health, but being gentle with yourselves in that process. So I think for me personally, happiness is feeling a sense of peace, feeling a sense of calm, having a capacity to be able to be present, and to be on a path that feels right for you. And again, you may wander off that path, but being aware of that and being able to come back on it. And I think health is a whole array of many different factors. It's your emotional health, it's your spiritual health, it's your financial health, it's your mental health, it's your physical health. Like, there's so much that is like under the umbrella of health. But I think, you know, it's a combination of these things that finds a solution for you that is sustainable, that is behaviors and habits that you can consistently do each day, that you enjoy, or most of the time you enjoy, and that make you feel good.
Amen. And I think
it's a really hard question.
It is hard. It is a really hard question, because ultimately, like as you said, it ebbs and flows, and I think that resonates with me. Like, happiness isn't once you've achieved it, you've achieved it. Same as health, right? Once you've achieved it, you haven't just achieved it. And this is where I think we can get a little bit lost. And we're obviously both health professionals, right? We both love exercise and health and our minds and kind of achieving all this kind of stuff. But once you're there, or once you think you're there, you're not, because you're making the next step, you're making the next goal to achieve the next piece, right? And so there's always a next goal, and there's always something else, and we're always not happy with where we're at or wherever it is. And so it's a journey of enjoyment, trying to enjoy the process. Like, I think that's the important part. Is that, as you said, it's a journey of working yourself back into being in alignment of where you want to be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. And, you know, I think
my argument
is what's going on between the two ears.
Yeah.
You know, that to me is one of the biggest components of health, because you can be eating your vegetables, you can be doing your training, you can be financially stable, you can be meditating every day, you know, but if your conversation between your two ears is not constructive and supportive and safe, then it's going to be very, very difficult to be healthy.
Yeah, agreed. Or happy.
Exactly.
And it's weird, isn't it? That kind of narrative we have, or that voice we have in our head, and like how that plays out. I'm going to put this in a slightly different way, because I think there is an element of health which we can define, right? And I think it's a very fine link or cross between well-being, which I think maybe where we've just kind of explained, and well-being is the whole picture. I personally think, and I have elements of this.
Yeah,
there is an element of being healthy.
for sure. But what is, I think the actual definition of health is like the absence of illness and disease.
Exactly.
Something like that, if I remember.
But that's hard. I mean, there's obviously lots of genetical issues, and some bits will play in it, but there's a way that we can be healthy and healthier. And so there must be a point where we can't do anything more healthy for ourselves, because we're doing as much as we can.
Yeah, and that's where that sustainability comes in, and those consistent daily actions.
Yeah. So on that part of health, on healthy, what do you think that looks like?
I think it looks like the conversation in between your two ears, and making sure that that's a conversation that makes you feel safe and supported, and you give yourself the advice you would give others, and you speak to yourself kindly, and that sort of like growth mindset mentality. I think it's your daily movement, it's making the correct nutritional choices 80% of the time, because what's the point in living to 120 if there are 110 miserable years? Let's be honest. It's about balance, it's about connecting with yourself, it's about strong relationships, that community, who's around you. And I think, you know, as we know, like with all the statistics with loneliness, that's an absolutely massive one, is who you surround yourself with. The environments that you build, are they environments that allow you to flourish, your systems, your processes, you know? So again, it's such a multifaceted, and it's different for everyone, you know, and that's why it's so important to find what works for you. It's not one size fits all. It's looking at all the components and saying, okay, this one's important to me, this one needs work, this one I'm doing well in, you know, and finding those behaviors that you can do consistently.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you hit the nail on the head of the very first kind of statement was, it's going on, what's going on between the ears. And it's that, okay, what does health look like to me? And what does it mean to me? And so for me and you, that means we get into the gym 4 or 5 times a week. We're probably doing something outside of that. We're being active, but that's me and you, right? That's people who've worked in this industry, cared about fitness, cared about whatever it is. So that's quite a high level of health for somebody to achieve.
Yeah.
But for the majority of people, understanding what that is for them is probably the most important part. If it's getting outside and doing an hour walk or half an hour walk every day, or 3 times a week you do something, whatever it might be, that's the important part. What does good nutrition look like? You might be drinking a bottle of full fat, full sugar Coke. Like changing that to water might be your goal, and be one thing which is your nutritional change.
Definitely. I think the most common mistake that people make is they try and do too much, and they try and bite off more than they can chew. You know, it's like why 80% of people fail their New Year's resolutions by the end of January, because they set themselves up for failure. There's nothing sustainable about it. And actually, it's more about what's the 1% every day? What are the small compound actions that we can do? So it's not about running a marathon. It's that's what I would call an intense goal. It's about doing 1,000 steps more every day, or hitting X amount of steps every day, and being consistent, you know? So I think we have to really move away from this idea of setting these really big, intense goals, and actually strip it back. And like you said, what is the small daily things we need to do, and the easy wins, the low barriers to entry, and stop actually setting ourselves up for failure.
100%. And I think that comes back to our whys a little bit, and that inner what our wants are as well. Because you might not want to be like us, super active people. You might just want to be able to look after your kids and live longer. Okay, so what does that mean?
Yeah, and I also I don't even think it's like an us versus it. I actually think life is so periodical. For example, 5 years ago, when I wasn't part of a tech startup and wasn't working in multiple time zones, whatever, but I'd left the world of IT, then it was very easy. But I was like, okay, what do I want to train 5 times a week? Let's train 5 times a week. I don't want to drink alcohol. Let's not drink alcohol. It's now it's like, okay, actually, I'll be really happy if I get 3 decent sessions in a week. And actually, that's really good for me now. And then I'll try and walk outside of whatever. It's life happens in periods, and you're not going to always be in the same period, and you don't need to be. So actually, it's like, what is the minimum you can do right now to get the outcome you need? And in other periods, it's like you have more free time. Maybe you don't have young children. Maybe that you don't have a really busy period at work, so then you start to push the needle a bit more, and then you have more time to do the slightly more challenging things, and then life gets busy again, so you draw it back. And it's being able to adapt to that, and knowing you don't have to be at it 110 miles per hour the whole time. You don't need to be. It might happen in weeks, months, years of periods, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's interesting. And I like the way you talk around the periods of life. We will all go through different bits. And I know you're going through that bit with HumanOS and how much you're doing and managing all of that in comparison to potentially what you're doing as a coach and what you're doing then in that kind of gap year as well. So it's important to understand that that in life that you might achieve something. You might achieve something, and that takes time away from somewhere else. And so it's always a balance of all these different strands of importance. And so you said financial wealth, financial health, your movement, your community, and your relationships. All those kind of bits are all on this sliding scale. There, sometimes they do just slide up and down, but you're never going to have all of them up here. And if you do, you're in a very lucky position.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I always sort of think it's about being adaptable to that. And, and for me now, if it was a Saturday night and I hadn't done all my training that week, or I hadn't seen my family, I'd be like, screw training. I want to go spend some time with my loved ones. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to make myself feel bad for not being in the gym, because actually, work is busy at the moment. There isn't time for everything, so we have to prioritize. But it's like I said, that what is the minimum we need to do? So it's about trying to create some sort of balance where
expectation of yourself as well. I think that's part of it. You have to be expectant of yourself to put the effort in. And you can't just go, I think so many people go, I'm really busy here, so actually that's fine. Where you can create that time and expect yourself still to achieve some of these really important bits for our overall person.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of it comes down to energy management. We talk about time management a lot, and I think that's actually quite outdated, because you could have all the hours in the world. If you don't have the energy to use them, they're redundant. So we have to start thinking in energy management. What do we have the energy to do, and how do we fill our energy up? And I think, again, like you say, it's about that pressure you put on yourselves. We aren't designed to be going at 110 miles per hour all the time. There is going to be times when you need to slow down. I think you've seen my race car analogy. It's my favorite. So I always tell, when I'm doing these talks or whatever, I always say, think of yourself as a Formula One driver. And no Formula One drivers ever won a race because they had their foot on the accelerator the whole time. You need to know when to brake, when to slow down, when to change your tires, when to refuel, when to take an off season, all of these components. And so it's you do these things, but what keeps the engine ticking over? And actually, so it's don't compromise on the things that make you feel good, be careful and mindful of what your environments are, what your daily habits are. Cut out the things that take you further away from where you want to be, the people, the social media, the procrastination, whatever that looks like. Cut the things out that take you further away from where you want to be, and just put your energy into what takes me closer to the person, the place, the goals that I have for myself.
Yeah, amen. I'm going to add one more to your race car analogy: the people which help you achieve that. Like a race car doesn't perform without the mechanics and the team and the stuff behind it. And I think we forget so much, especially I think due to COVID. And I also feel like it highlighted it, and potentially this hybrid working place we're in is that community, the people who add to you. I think like it's so easy to forget that.
Totally. Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of what you just said a second ago about get to Saturday night. And I've missed my training sessions. Do I want to do that training session? Do I want to be with family or with my friends having a laugh? That wins for me. And I'm going to the pub, having a beer or two, so much more than I am going to the gym by myself for half an hour, for an hour. Like it's a no-brainer for me. That's for me so much more important.
Definitely. And I think sort of modern society as well. Modern society, we live in a world, and we live in a time now where it pushes you to keep on pressing on at these fast speeds. And actually one of the best things you can do, coming back to your health, is learning how to slow down and setting boundaries and being really strict with those boundaries. That's probably one of the most powerful things I did for myself, is what are my boundaries and what allows me to slow down and to start my days correctly and to make the most of my days, and how do I make sure I do not compromise on that?
Yeah, boundaries is an interesting one. It's one of the ones I deal with most is in this kind of exec coaching kind of journey I'm going on, is like setting good boundaries for your goals, because around that you set everything else. So, I mean, we've kind of covered a couple of questions here. I'm going to ask this question, and we might just skip over it quite quickly. How do individuals take ownership of all of that?
How do they take ownership of their health?
Yeah, all of what we've just discussed. I think we've discussed quite a lot. Putting it onto the individual, how can they take ownership of that?
I think when you're really just starting off on a health journey, and when you've had that moment where you're like, I don't want to feel this way anymore, or I don't want to feel this way again, or I want more for myself. It's what are the easy wins at that point? Because it's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. If you're trying to change your habits and your behaviors and your thoughts, it's going to be a really, really long, challenging path. Arguably one that you never, ever finish walking. And so I think when it comes to taking ownership, it's about what are the little wins right now? What are the easiest things I can start to implement that are going to help me begin this journey? And then when they become habit, then you go for the slightly more challenging ones. And then again, so you build the habits slowly and you hold yourself accountable. And if you can't hold yourself accountable, find someone who holds you accountable. But if you try and do too much too soon, and I keep saying this point, but it is important, you just become demotivated because you set yourself up for failure. And then when you don't hit it, you get annoyed, you get demotivated, and then you go back to your old ways. So actually it's like small, easy, implement it, let it become a habit, and then go again and just build it up really gradually.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think the bit I want to reiterate from what you've just said is that understanding what it is you need to do, and understanding where you're going with it and why you're doing that.
And ask for help if you don't understand what it is. If you don't have the awareness and you don't have the tools and the skills, go for help.
There's somebody who can support you or wants to support you.
When I was working in the city, working stupid hours, eating like rubbish every day, feeling like rubbish, getting progressively more ill, I just thought, enough. I remember it so well. I was 21. I said to myself, my dad is not, 22. I said, my dad's not going to die seeing me not be the best version of myself. just not happening. That's not how this is going to end. So, and it was on that day, and it was on my birthday. I went to the gym, I went to Fitness First in St. Paul's, and I signed up to a personal trainer, and I said 5 sessions a week, 6 a.m. every day. And he looked at me like I was mental, and I still talk to this man now. He's awesome. 6 a.m. every day, Monday to Friday.
Sleep deprived, but he's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, why? And I was like, because if I'm in here at 6 a.m., I won't be in the pub the night before.
Yeah.
And so that was, and because I didn't know how to exercise. When I first went into the gym, I couldn't even squat a 20 kg barbell. Like, I was tiny. And like I say that when I, especially when I was PT, and I told my clients this, I'm like, honestly, this is a photo of me where I started. Like, I promise you, you can do this. I promise you. And so it's like, if you don't have the tools or the knowledge, go and find people that do. And yes, okay, it can be expensive, but there's so many resources out there now. And I shouldn't say this as someone who sells a service into organizations, but I'll say this as a human. YouTube, Google, there is everything you need on the internet. And if you can afford professional help, get professional help. I started with a personal trainer. I've had nutritionists, I've had therapists, I've had breathwork coaches. At the moment, I'm with this spiritual sort of journey healer, so, and that's where I choose to spend my money. And I'm very fortunate that I can do that. Yeah, I understand that. But also, like, not all these things are expensive. And it comes down to, like, where are your priorities, and, even if you just have 1 session, 2 sessions, just to get the basics. You just save yourself one fancy dinner out, put it into one coaching session, get all the basics you need, and then go and try and do these things. But put yourself in a position to succeed.
Amen. Yeah, 100%. And it is that, isn't it? Use the help. And then also, like, there's a couple of bits there. It's starting those small little habits, but then you kind of built a habit off of a habit, and you took out one habit because of the good habit you implemented. So you didn't go out as often because you.
I am such an addict. Yeah. I am an addict. I am one of the most addictive people you'll ever meet, and I swapped one addiction for another 100%. And I admit that. And I always say, as far as addictions go, exercise isn't that bad. But then that was still something I had to deal with later on. But then I was in a place to deal with that, and I actually go, okay, instead of now trying to run from my problems and train my problems away, I'm going to sit with my problems and talk about them, which was way harder than learning to squat.
way harder.
You know,
you don't know what's going on between my ears.
My therapist earned her money. Let's just put it that way. But you do, though, because you learn new tools and you have new coping mechanisms. Then new awareness of yourself, so you go deeper down that journey, and then you explore different things. And that's the beauty of it as well. That's what life is. It's fun to explore, it's fun to get awareness, it's fun to develop, like, it's fun to grow. It's not always easy, it's not always nice, it doesn't always feel good, but what else? Why wouldn't you?
It's a learning mindset the whole time, right? Wanting to improve and be better consistently. I think
better than the person you were yesterday.
100%.
That's all you have to do. It's not about anyone else. It's no one else's journey. Like, put the blinkers on, like you're a horse going from A to B. Don't look at any other ponies. Don't look at the people. Don't look at the cars. Just, you are getting from A to B. How can you put one foot in front of the other? Like, how do you constantly get better?
Yeah, no, wicked. Because I'm aware that we are at kind of 22. Going to begin.
I do love a talk. Sorry.
No, don't worry. I think we're both on it at the moment as well. So, second to last question, penultimate question.
Yes.
I think we've spoken about what people can do, although I think we've gone around the houses slightly, and we'll bring that back to kind of the last question, I guess. But we have put a lot of ownership on the human being, on taking those with the things they can do and how they can help themselves, both their happiness and their health, right?
Yeah.
Where do you think, if you're an employee, where does the organization fit and support here?
This is why I like not getting questions beforehand, because if I had questions like this beforehand, I'd be like, oh my gosh, this is difficult. I'd rather just be in front of the headlights. Yeah. I am personally a very firm believer in how important an environment is to one's health. And so I think organizations have a huge responsibility of creating the right environments and the right cultures and the right behaviors, and demonstrating those behaviors from the top when it comes to role modeling and building, allowing individuals to optimize their health by building the correct environments in the workplace. The majority of people spend the most of the time at work, whether that's hybrid, remote, in the office, whatever. You're still spending so much time at work. So many people now are checking their email when they shouldn't be, working weekends, not taking their annual leave. So if this is the majority of our lives, then for me, the organization has a huge responsibility in that and building the correct environment for their employees.
Mm-hmm. So it's around the culture and the environment of the organization, not. I think it's very. I think it can be very lost through the conversations I have. Is that maybe there's an expectation that they have to do something for that person? Do you think it's more around the environment and the culture they create?
I don't think so. If we look at like employee benefits or whatever. And again, I say this as a company that provides workshops and coaching, and I do think that's important. But what do I think is most important? I think most importantly, people feel safe. People feel like they can take time off. People feel like they can set boundaries. People feel like they can be heard and seen. And I think that comes down to the environment and the culture. And actually, if you get those things correct, a lot of all the other benefits you're offering aren't needed, because actually the employees are flourishing in the environments they are in, and that's how it should be. And business performance and employee well-being go hand in hand. They're the same, they're different sides of the same coin. And it blows my mind how people still fail to realize that this isn't we can't invest here because it's going to, impact our bottom line here. It's if you invest here, this is only going to positively impact your bottom line. And also, hello, wake up, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I was just replaying your thing of like the how the environment, if you have the right environment, you probably don't need people like me and you, right? But the benefit of us in a workplace, HumanOS, employee self coaching and education, is that if you've got the environment and the culture allows people to thrive and be their very best selves, because that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
We then help them understand where they're going. We can help them know what they can do because they're in the right environment. If you're in an environment where that's not there, and then you bring us into place, we help, but it's harder for them to achieve that and achieve that health, well-being, performance, best version of themselves, because the culture's not there supporting it.
It sits hand in hand, right? And we live, I think, in society nowadays, there needs to be a emphasis on both. We need to be working really, really hard as coaches, as wellness companies, as leaders, as management, whoever it may be in those organizations. We need to be working really hard to simplify the health of the individual again, because it is just so overwhelming and complicated now. People don't know which way to turn. They're low on energy, they're low on time, so they actually then find it really hard to start implementing these behaviors that they need to implement to then start functioning at their best again, and even better. And then on the other side, we need to be doing the work with the organizations around the culture building, the environment building, the process building, looking at their data, looking at the statistics and saying, okay, this is what you need to implement in your organization to see a positive impact in X, Y, and Z. And they both go hand in hand together. And the more that is done, the more we will then start to see this cultural shift, where people actually understand that by looking after other people and treating humans as humans, that performance then increases both individual and at the business level.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Last question.
Yes.
What are your top 3 take-home bits of advice, insights into this kind of conversation around taking ownership of your health and well-being?
Think of energy management, not time management. what are you doing to make sure your energy levels are high enough to perform the behaviors that you want to perform? Energy, not time. Consistency, not intensity. What can you do each day consistently to work towards the outcomes you want, and not like setting yourself up for failure?
Love that one, by the way. First time I've heard someone say that, and like as a point.
Thanks. And tying in the whole like slowing down to speed up piece into that. And then probably the most important one for me, start paying real attention to what that voice is between your two ears. It's the first voice you hear, it's the last voice you hear. There is no conversation more important in the world than one you have with yourself. And doing whatever you need to do to make that conversation one that makes you feel good. I think especially now in modern society, so many people I speak to, they almost think that this anxiety and this negative internal dialogue, they think it motivates them to hit their goals. And this was me for a long time as well. You almost think I have to speak harshly to myself because if I don't, I won't be motivated. And actually, what if you flip that on your head and you think, if you've achieved this much being to yourself, what on earth can you achieve if you actually supported yourself and believed in yourself and loved yourself?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
The positive mindset and the positive thoughts.
Internal self-talk. Yeah.
Makes such a big difference to how we
Otherwise, the rest of it's irrelevant. You know, you just, like we said at the beginning,
no self-belief.
Healthy.
Yeah. Nothing.
No.
Thank you for everything. Great insights, information, stories, all of it. I think it's been very helpful, and I hope people have found it really informative. Where can they find you, Bianca?
LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Bianca Errigo or HumanOS.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Bianca Errigo
Coaching.
Thank you. Email bianca@humanos.co.uk.
Perfect.
I'm running around London City like a crazy lady.
Yeah. Probably a train station about 6 o'clock. Station about 6 o'clock somewhere near. I think it's
you can find me between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. After that, I'll be sleeping somewhere. The closest bed available.
Yeah, or in a box like this.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing.
Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. Always love talking to you. I think you're just so knowledgeable and just a lovely soul. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, the money will be in the post for the nice compliments.
Yeah,
wicked. We'll obviously catch up. But the next session is next week with Paul Burgess, talking around supporting multicultural employees and how we look after their well-being in different cultures. So yeah, it'll be an interesting conversation. And then the week after, or the week after that, I've got Jake Saunders, our friend, on talking around organisation structures and
he loves following me around.
I know he does. He told me. But yeah, no. Take care, everybody. Good to see you.
Thank you. Bye.